Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. We have a huge update from Pelosi on the next stimulus package and potential stimulus checks for seniors. So, a couple of things off the top. One, Nancy Pelosi just held a press conference where she gave a couple of items that were really good news. First of all, she said that a new study just came out showing that the stimulus package will be fully paid for. Now, this is great news because this is one of the major hurdles that Joe Manchin had put in place. He wants the package to be fully paid for, and he also wants the total cost over 10 years to be $1.75 trillion. Secondly, Nancy Pelosi has added some payments back into the stimulus package. Now, last week, President Biden gave the new framework, which was a lot smaller, down to $1.75 trillion, so a lot of things were cut out. Well, now Nancy Pelosi has added some things back in, including some payments that will be sent out directly to the American people. So we're going to discuss the details of all of this in this video, and as well as watch the full press conference that Nancy Pelosi just held, giving updates on where negotiations stand today. But before we jump into it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so do me a huge favor. Click on the link that's in the description of this video. Subscribe to my second channel. I'm going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. Okay, so off the top, Nancy Pelosi presented a new study showing that the stimulus package will be fully paid for, which was one of Joe Manchin's main concerns. So this is a quick 2-minute clip. Let's watch this clip where Nancy Pelosi explains exactly what this study said. Then we're going to discuss the details of the payments that she added back into the stimulus package, as well as watch the entire conference that Pelosi just held. So quick clip, then we'll discuss the details of the payments.
Staffs and okay, so Build Back Better. That's why you're here, right? We, as I said, just completing a meeting of the House Democrats. Again, I wish everyone could see the pride we take in the work that has been done by the members, by the chairman, by the staff. Relentless, and not only our own staffs and committee staff, but the Congressional Budget Office, the Ledge Council Office, and the rest. This morning, we have a report from Joint Tax, which is very documenting how the bill and validating how the legislation is paid for. It came out about 10 o'clock. I referred it to you for your review. It's a very solid, because people said, well, it's really paid. There are people who say it isn't paid for. Yeah, there are people who say a lot of things. But this document of Joint Tax is objective. That's not Democratic, it's not Republican, it's objective view that it is solidly paid for. And that doesn't even take into account the money that we'll get from what we're very proud of as an agreement on prescription drugs, which generates resources, as well as enforcement, which is $400 billion in enforcement. So here we are with all of this. The prescription drug bill is something that is news from last week. It enables us to do something we've been trying to do for a very long time, have the Secretary of HHS negotiate for lower drug prices, halts pharma's outrageous price hikes above inflation, and expands ACA to make coverage more affordable for those who buy insurance on their own. So it's not just about Medicare prices, it's about the private sector, commercial sector as well.
So really good news. The stimulus package will be fully paid for according to this independent study. And then Nancy Pelosi also mentioned that didn't even include the savings on prescription drug costs that Medicare will save. And she said that will add up to about $400 billion. So not only would that be enough to expand Medicare, but it would also be enough to include the stimulus checks for seniors. Those stimulus checks would cost about $200 billion, which is half of what just the prescription savings will be. So that's good news for stimulus, and potentially good news specifically for seniors as well, not just to save money on prescriptions, but also because it's going to create funding that could potentially be used on stimulus checks. Now, this article is headlined, Pelosi says Democrats are adding paid family leave back into the social spending bill, but the fate in the Senate is still unclear. So, she is adding payments back in for paid family leave, and that's referring to people who have kids that will have a guaranteed either 4 or 12 weeks off to be with their newborns, getting payments every single week or every other week, depending on how their job regularly pays payments. Now, this is huge news because this is something that Joe Manchin was adamant about taking out, but Nancy Pelosi has added back in, which will create payments for millions of people every single year. Now, it's also on top of the fact that Nancy Pelosi added back in those savings for prescription drugs, which is something Kyrsten Sinema had wanted to take out from the framework that President Biden added last week. So, bottom line here, folks, Pelosi is adding things back in. Moderates are not going to be able to cut every single thing out like they wanted, right? She's adding back in payments for people who have newborns, adding in paid family leave. She's adding back in the bill that will lower prescription drug costs, saving seniors millions of dollars, and creating more funds that could potentially be used to include stimulus checks for seniors as well. Of course, they're also including those monthly stimulus checks for families with kids. We expect that to be included as well. So a lot of payments are being added back into this stimulus package, and at the same time, Bernie Sanders is still fighting to include that stimulus check for seniors. So overall, things are heading in the right direction. Now, things are still unclear. Things are still going to be negotiated. Of course, we're not sure how Joe Manchin is going to react to the fact that Nancy Pelosi has added back in the paid family leave, so we'll have to wait and see how he responds. But the great news here is that things are heading in the right direction. Nancy Pelosi is adding a variety of different payments back into the stimulus package framework. She's also including the savings for prescription drugs. So overall, things are heading in the right direction when it comes to negotiating more payments into the stimulus package. So we're hoping that translates to seniors getting stimulus checks as well, right? Bernie Sanders is trying to include a $1,000 stimulus check for seniors, and some groups want it to be as high as $1,400. We even have some groups that want it to be as high as $2,000 for seniors, right? So bottom line here, folks, things continue to be negotiated, but are heading in the right direction. Of course, we will have a lot of updates as things develop, and we just got a huge update from Pelosi as she held a press conference describing what is happening with the package and what she expects to happen next. So let's watch this press conference. I think it's about 10 minutes, so watch as much as you can. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I will have a detailed analysis either tonight or tomorrow morning describing exactly every single thing Pelosi said and what we can expect to happen next.
Thank you for your patience. We're just finishing our House Democratic whip meeting. That's for the others out there, really part of our caucus where we heard from our magnificent chairman, had a Q&A with our members, with each chair, about the specifics in the legislation as amended from what they have seen since last week. It was very inspiring and heartening to see the depth of knowledge, the value-based decisions that were made in the committees, and the ongoing commitment to getting the job done for the people. Okay, so Build Back Better, that's why you're here, right? We, as I said, just completing a meeting of the House Democrats. Again, I wish everyone could see the pride we take in the work that has been done by the members, by the chairman, by the staff. Relentless. And not only our own staffs and committee staff, but the Congressional Budget Office, the Ledge Council Office, and the rest. This morning we have a report from Joint Tax, which is very documenting how the bill and validating how the legislation is paid for. It came out about 10 o'clock. I referred it to you for your review. It's a very solid, because people say, well, it's really paid. There are people who say it isn't paid for. Yeah, there are people who say a lot of things. But this document of joint tax is objective. It's not Democratic, it's not Republican, it's objective view that it is solidly paid for. And that doesn't even take into account the money that we'll get from what we're very proud of is an agreement on prescription drugs, which generates resources, as well as enforcement, which is $400 billion in enforcement. So here we are with all of this. The prescription drug bill is something that is news from last week. It enables us to do something we've been trying to do for a very long time, have the Secretary of HHS negotiate for lower drug prices, halts pharma's outrageous price hikes above inflation, and expands ACA to make coverage more affordable for those who buy insurance on their own. So it's not just about Medicare prices, it's about the private commercial sector as well.
What effect do you think having not passed these bills had on Tuesday's election results?
Well, let me say it in a different way. I think that getting the job done, producing results for the American people is always very positive. Each election is different. As you know, I was former party chair, and I always know, let's look down into the numbers and see what it is. But I do think as the American people learn more about what we are doing in this legislation for families, for children, for women in the workforce to save our planet and the rest, it will be very positive. You can't deny that it would be very positive.
Do you think Democrats were penalized for having not gotten these things done?
I haven't seen that and all of the analysis, and I know from my own experience that as I've said to you before, the plural of anecdote is not data. Let's see what the data is as it comes out. But there's no question. If the more results we can produce in a way that people understand in their lives, the better it is.
Could you just project this week a little bit what you expect? Do you expect to vote tonight? And is it possible that you might just vote on the infrastructure bill, considering everybody seems to be bought in and saying it's ready for a vote?
No.
Okay, so let's vote on that. Do you anticipate a vote on Build Back Better today, and what are the big hurdles you have to overcome?
I'll let you know as soon as I wish to. But we're okay, you're just worried about your own schedule. I know that. But the fact is that our members are engaged in very thoughtful deliberation with each other. As I said to you before, 90% of this bill has been agreed to, House, Senate, White House, and written. We made some changes since last week. People need to familiarize themselves with it. That was the purpose of our meeting this morning. As I said, it made me very proud and was inspired by just once again hearing the depth of knowledge and breadth of vision of our colleagues. And we'll let you know. But I think many of you know I was really very unhappy about not passing the BIF last week. I really was very unhappy because we had an October 31st deadline, and I thought that was eloquent, but not enough, I guess. So now we're going to pass both bills, but in order to do so, we have to have votes for both bills, and that's where we are.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You just mentioned that you don't want members to vote on something that may not have a good prospect when it goes over to the Senate. When it comes down to paid family leave, which is now included in this bill, Senator Joe Manchin believes that it shouldn't be in this bill. Do you believe that the president can convince him otherwise? And what's your message to Senator Manchin on why it deserves to be in this bill?
Well, I don't make it a habit of talking to Senator Manchin on the TV. We're friends. I respect him. He's a good person. He's agreed to so much that is in the bill. Universal pre-K and child care, agreed to the Affordable Care Act expanded to embrace those who are left out of the Medicaid, especially our seniors who depend on that for long-term care. He's been supportive of the child tax credit. There's so many things, home health care and the rest. Some of the stuff in green, we're not finished with that yet, but we've had some areas of agreement there. So, but the fact is, there's one difference between some of these issues, like hearing. It's not for hearing in the bill. Hearing has a very broad universal support in our caucus. In terms of family medical leave, that has big, broad, it's no sacrifice for anybody to vote for something that might not see the light of day. And these, we hope, will see the light of day. We can afford it. It's universal. It's compromise. 4 weeks. I'd rather have it longer. I want it 6 weeks because that's when little babies can finally be able to go to child care, but nonetheless, 4 weeks. So my message to, not Joe Manchin, I mean, we talk enough, he knows what my message is, but with all the respect in the world for the point of view he represents, I disagree. I think that this is appropriate for this legislation. It fits very comfortably with child care, health care, home care, family and medical leave, and it has the full support of our caucus. There are other issues that, for example, registry, which may or may not, people will be willing to vote for it if there's a real prospect for success in the Senate. And we'll have to see what that is. So we have reserved the right to make distinctions among them.
And just to respond to some moderates who have said maybe they need more time to review this legislation.
Well, you know, this has been up for, first of all, this is the bill, basically we had $3.5 trillion. And then we had to cut it in half, so that was drastic, and that's what was posted last week. Now we asked for public comment, and we have public comment, you act upon the comment, and that is what this would ordinarily be a situation more on the subject you ever want to know and reject it as soon as these bills are passed, because it will not be useful in your life for the future. On reconciliation, you really can't do an expansive manager's amendment. Normally, regular order, we put the bill out last week, there are changes, manager's amendment, pass it on. Reconciliation, you have to have it embraced in the totality of another amendment, but it's really that it contains it all so that it adds up, because that's what reconciliation is about. And so when people are saying, well, this is a whole new bill, no, it isn't. But if you imagined it as a manager's amendment, it might be easier to grasp because you're just seeing the differences, and that's what members presented today. So again, no manager's amendment with reconciliation that is substantive. Therefore, you have to cloak it or couch it in a similar, this is called amendment, last week was called an amendment as well, an amendment in the nature of a substitute. Is that going to serve you well in your life?
Are you concerned that the parliamentarians passed as an immigration prosecutor inhibits her ability to, produce an impartial judgment on immigrant relief proposals?
I mean, the judgment about the parliamentarian is one for the Senate, I just don't agree with the original, that the policy outweighed the budgetary aspects of the bill. But she's the parliamentarian. You have to talk to the Senate about judgments about their people. Yes, sir?
Your leadership took a whip count. The deadline was about a half hour ago.
I'm sorry?
Your leadership took a whip count of
Yeah.
your members on the Build Back Better Act. The deadline for that was about a half hour ago. Are there Democrats still saying that they're not going to vote for this? Do you have the votes to pass this by the end of the week?
Well, you were my priority. I came right from the caucus to this meeting, so I'm not familiar with what that is. But again, we have questions that members have, whether it's about, is it really paid for? That was one of the questions. Yesterday, we had a session where I listened to them, and they want to know, is it really paid for and how? We had this morning, Richie Neal and Brian Deese from the White House talk about how it was, and with the idea, that was early. That at 10 o'clock, the Joint Tax Committee would be, that would be released. Have you seen it? You've seen it, okay. So that was one piece. The other piece was about inflation, and we had the experts' opinions, and in fact, a very recent today from Moody's that the bill was since it is paid for, it would not increase inflation, and in fact, it would add to our economy because of child care, enabling many more women to fully participate in it. So I haven't seen. I don't know. I was going to say, did you see the whip gun? Because I'll tell you something about Mr. Clyburn. He keeps it close to the vest. Even as speaker, I say that. Mr. Clyburn, how are we doing?
Madam Speaker, a number of the Virginia Democrats were very critical of the decision not to put the infrastructure bill on the floor before the election, and they say that contributed to Terry McAuliffe's loss. Do you believe the House Democrats in any way were partially responsible for what happened on Tuesday?
Wasn't that a question you asked?
Similar.
What I said was any sign of progress is always good for the public when they understand what it is, and I think they understand infrastructure pretty well. So it would have been better if we had. I don't know because I haven't seen the data. Perhaps you have. I think there were other issues at work in that election.